Good evening. So welcome all to the CHAMS meeting, June. We have the usual agenda lined up with the student presentation by Namila Perera from the University of Moratuwa. And then the interested presenter would be Mr. Chaminda Chandrasekara. He is a TFS expert, I would call. He would do the presentation on the application life cycle management with TFS, and he's the technical lead from Navantis, .NET technical lead. And then we have the most awaited soft skills session, puzzle, and we have some gifts as well arranged for the winners of that soft skills session, so await that as well. So before starting, one more announcement. We have the rhetoric competition today as well. So with the hashtag #GameBestChamps, you could tweet. The best tweet would get a small gift from us. So start on, and you can go on with retweeting, but not the number of tweets would count, but the best would be counted. So without much ado, let me invite Namila Perera, third year student, second year student from University of Moratuwa. He'll start off with the presentation, new features in Visual Studio 2012 that makes our life easy. So over to Namila.
Thank you, Larry. Hello everyone, I am Namila and I am from Faculty of Information Technology, University of Moratuwa. Today's topic of my presentation is new features in Visual Studio 2012 that makes your lives easy. So before moving into the presentation, let me see the ones who currently use the 2012 version. Who are you guys using 2012? Okay, so who are the ones that use 2010 version? Okay, so it seems to be you have a mixed audience. So basically today I will talk about three topics, and they would be: first, we will see how remote debugger can be used to deploy an application into a client environment and perform a debugging session in our client environment without using Visual Studio in the client environment. And as a second part, I will discuss how the performance of our applications can be improved using asynchronous tasks. And as the third part, I will explain how to use intelligence collector to collect information about errors and exceptions from a live running web server without shut down the server. Okay, so the first one would be using remote debugger to conduct a debugging session in the client environment. So as developers, we know one of the most tedious tasks that we have to do is debugging. So while we are at our developer machines, it's quite possible because we have all those developing tools like Visual Studio, and Visual Studio has a good set of debugging tools. So it's, we can manage the debugging session however. But there are situations where we have to conduct debug sessions on our client environment. So if we deploy our application direct to the client environment, we can perform some black box testing, such as we can give some inputs and check the outputs. But we can't get that rich debugging environment which we experience in our developer machines, such as we can't add breakpoints or we can't walk through the code. So such functionality won't be available if we directly deploy our application to the client. And we can't demand our clients to have Visual Studio in their environment because Visual Studio is a bit high-weight tool, and since it's a commercial version, you have to purchase that. So it's quite impossible to demand our clients to have Visual Studio installed their machines. So what remote debugger allows you is to remotely deploy your application to your client via the network and perform a debugging session in client machines. So still we have all the functionalities in Visual Studio with us. So to do that, we will need a client environment. It can be a physical or a virtual environment. Today since I don't have two physical machines, I will use a virtual machine. And that machine won't need to have Visual Studio, but it should be installed with remote tools for Visual Studio 2012. And you will also need .NET Framework 4.5 installed with it. So if you don't have those two tools, you can download them for free from Visual Studio Download Center. So now let's see how it can be done. I have created a small console application, and it's basically nothing much. It will just print out some values in the console. So now I am in my developer machine. So if I want, I can add breakpoints or walk through the code and do whatsoever I want. But let's see how this same application can be deployed into a remote client environment. So in order to do so, here I have my virtual machine, and this is a fresh installation of Windows 8, and it doesn't have Visual Studio, so you can check. It doesn't have Visual Studio. Okay. So what you have to first do is you have to download and install remote tools for Visual Studio 12 and configure that. Actually, at the first instance, you have to run remote debug configuration wizard. Here it is, and do the configuration. Actually, since I done the configuration once, I won't do it again. There's nothing to configure actually. You have to just keep the default values, press next, and finish it off. So there's no configuration actually. Just you have to run the wizard, and after that, you can start the remote debugger. Here you have the remote debugger, and this is the remote debugging monitor. It will lock down all the information about your remote debugging session. Okay. So this statement is very important. If I show it. Now here is the name of my virtual machine, and here is the port that it has assigned for the debugging session. So now this port is listening to Visual Studio. So what we have to do is, from our client machine, we have to copy this name of the client machine, and I will move back into my developer machine. So just go to the properties of your project, and in the debug tab, instead of before the start of the debugging session, you have to share this source with your client via the network. So I have already done that. So what I have to do is, instead of the start project option, I have to select start external program and give the executable in the network. So I can go to my network places. So here is the executable shared on the network. I can open it, and in this start option column, you may have click this remote machine one and give the name of the remote machine. Then if I start debugging, it will ask me for the credentials in order to connect to the client environment. So after inserting the credentials, then you can see nothing happens in the developer machine. So if I navigate to my client machine, I can see that the debugging session has started. And this monitor is the information that my server has connected. And here we have the debug application running. So if I start the application, it will run in the normal way as it will run in the developer environment. So now, if I want to do some rich debugging, for an example, I can add breakpoints. So what I can do is, I can move into my developer machine and open the source. So if I want to add a breakpoint here, I can add it and start debugging again. So nothing will happen in the developer machine. If I move into my client, I can see the debug session has started. So if I start the application, it will hit the breakpoint. So now if you move into the client environment, you can see the execution of the program has paused. So what you can do is, as usually what we do in the Visual Studio, we can navigate through the code and execute some code lines and go back to my machine and see the progress. So it has also progressed. So even the application is running on the client environment, we still have those debugging functionalities available with us. So you can go through code more. And if you navigate back to your machine, you can see the progress. So it's quite easy and quite useful for you as developers because now you can deploy your application remotely into your client and actually perform a debugging session on the client machine and understand the vulnerabilities and errors that may occur after the deployment of the application into the real environment. So that's about it. So I think it's quite easy. So do you have any questions on it? Because the second session will be independent from this. Okay, now let's move into the second session. As the second part of the presentation, I will introduce how to use asynchronous tasks in our application to improve performance of our application. So you have to learn about two things. The first one is the difference between a synchronous schedule and an asynchronous schedule. and the usage of async and await keywords provided with .NET Framework 4.5 in order to make the writing of asynchronous task much simpler. So now let's see what's a synchronous task and asynchronous task. So I quoted this from a presentation done at MVP Summit 2013. According to that, it says a synchronous task is perform something here and now. I regain control to execute something else when it is done. So if I explain this in a day-to-day scenario, let's take a schedule of two tasks. The first one would be downloading a movie, and let's take another task such as doing an assignment. So if I execute those two tasks in a synchronous manner, what I will do is I will start the download and I will wait until the download is 100% completed. Then I will move into my assignment. So if I do the same schedule in an asynchronous manner, it says initiate something here and now. I will regain control and execute something else immediately. That means I will start the download, and as soon as the download progresses, I will move into my assignment task. So while the download in progress, I will do my assignment. So it's obvious that typically a synchronous task is much time efficient than a synchronous manner. So let's see how these async and await keywords can be used to facilitate this. Here, actually before the introduction of 4.5 version of .NET Framework, it was possible to write a synchronous task. So, but then you have to do it in a multi-threading manner. You have to create new threads, and you have to be aware about the states of those threads. And if the child threads throws any exceptions, you have to handle them. So, there's quite a lot of work. So, the introduction of async and await keywords actually simplifies this work and encourages programmers to write more and more asynchronous code. So the async keyword is to mark a method as async. So the compiler will know that the particular method should be executed in an asynchronous manner. The await keyword is used to suspend the execution of the current method and return the control back to its call. So I think it's better to explain it in a code example. Here I have my class, and in my class I have three methods. The first one is the main method, and I have declared two asynchronous methods, do task and download data. So what this method does is, it will call this download data method, and the purpose of this download data method is to download some strings from the internet in an asynchronous manner. So both of these methods are modified with async keyword, meaning that this should be run in an asynchronous manner. So I will start my code by creating an object of this class A and calling this doTask method. So as soon as executor comes here, it will call this download data method. Okay, as the first line of the download data method, it will create an object of this web client task, and in the web client class, we have a method called download string task async. The purpose of this method is to download some strings from the internet in an asynchronous manner. So as soon as this method is called, it will start the download and give back execution back to this line. So the download will be executed in a simultaneous manner, but I can continue with execution. So execution will be returned back here, and here I have defined an independent region. So in this region, you can execute code which are not dependent on the result of this download. So while the download is in progress, we can execute the tasks which don't depend on the progress of the download. And after executing those independent tasks, we won't able to continue execution of this method since we need the result of this download. So in a situation like that, I will use this await keyword to suspend the execution of this method and return my control back to the caller. So once an asynchronous method is suspended using the await keyword, it will return execution back to the caller, and the caller will assign with the object of will assign with the task object. And the task object can take any type, like here it is string. It can take an int, double, or anything. So the purpose of this task object is actually it's a promise for the caller that at the end of the execution of this asynchronous method, it will return the type same to the type of the task. For an example, my download data method will return a task of string. That means at the completion of this execution of this method, it will return a string result. So another purpose of this task object is to call the result which is returned from this asynchronous method. So what will happen is, as soon as I suspend execution here, it will come here and assign a task object, and here I have another independent region. So in this region, I can execute code which is not dependent on the result of this download data method. So after executing such tasks, I won't be able to continue my do task method either because I have to wait for the result of this method. So in that situation, I will again call await keyword and suspend the execution of this method and return my control back to my main method. Okay. Here I have added a readline statement to stop the program by exiting before the completion of this download. So then the execution will wait at the main method until the awaited tasks are completed. So as soon as this download gets completed, it will assign its result to this task object, and this await keyword will take that result and assign to this string variable here, and it will be returned, and that result will be assigned to this download task object, and the await keyword here will take that result and assign to this info string, and it will be printed. So you can see using this await and async keyword, we can take the maximum advantage of the time that we spend on downloading. So none of the threads will be get blocked. So we efficiently use the time allocated for download. So I think rather than explaining it in this manner, I guess it's better to see a practical example. So here I have the implementation of this slide I explained. So here is the implementation of that task I explained, and other than the normal lines, I have added some printouts to mark the current position of the executor. So if I run this one, you can see so the download of the string just got completed. Okay. Just now the downloading of the strings got completed, even though I started that task at the beginning. But until that download is on progress, it will execute other lines which are in the code which are not dependent on the progress of the download. So it will stop the thread from entering into a blocking state. Instead of that, it will do the tasks which are not dependent on the progress of the download. So now let's see how this can be practically implemented and improve the performance of our applications. So in order to do so, I have created a small WPF application. Here I will download some fields from the internet using several sources. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sources. So now let's execute this schedule in a synchronous manner and asynchronous manner and compare the results. So I have written this download method, this read feed method in both asynchronous manner and a synchronous manner. So now let's execute one by one and see the difference. So first of all, I will run the synchronous manner. So it's already in the synchronous manner. And if I run this, and also note before downloading this button, in a synchronous manner, the execution won't even get even considerable the UI thread. So as soon as you download, the whole attention will be given to the download, and the UI thread will get irresponsive. You can't even do anything to the UI thread. So you can see that if I start download, and the HO events of the buttons won't occur, and I can't even move that window because the UI thread has fully got responsive, and the complete attention is gone to the downloading task. So we have to wait until the download is completed. So it took me 2 seconds for the download. Okay. So let's execute the same schedule in an asynchronous manner and compare the results. So it took me 32 seconds. So now what I will do is I will comment out this synchronous manner and uncomment this asynchronous method. And I will have to make some modifications in my main method since I am using I did some task objects, say this run on in a synchronous manner. So now see the difference in the UI thread. So even I start download, the button starts still responsive, and I can do anything with the UI until even though download is on progress. Okay, it only took about 12 seconds. So I have an advantage of 20 seconds. So you can see that's a huge advantage over the asynchronous method and the synchronous method. So using an asynchronous schedule, I reduce my downloading time from 20 seconds. So that's great. That's a great achievement. So I suggest all of you to use asynchronous schedules when especially you are developing applications which download sticks from the internet. So I hope it's clear and you got some understanding about synchronous schedules, asynchronous schedules, and how they can be practically implemented. So do you have any questions on that part? Because the third part will be completely difficult from this. Okay, then I will move to the third part. So as the third part of our presentation, we will see how we can trace information from a live running web server without making it go offline. So I am using Internet Trace Collector for Visual Studio 2012 to collect information from a production level web server which is running on the client environment about the information about threads, thread states, and any kind of exceptions and errors thrown by the server. So as the previous example, we need to install Internet Trace Collector for Visual Studio to achieve this task, and you don't need to have Visual Studio in your environment. So for this example, I will use a simple ASP.NET application. Here I have a simple ASP.NET application, and I have added 3 text boxes, and what the application does is it will take the value from the first text box and divide it from the second text box and display the third one. So we are simple thing. And in the code I have stated that if the divisor is 0, to throw an application exception since it's not possible to divide from 0. So if I run this in my developer machine, now I have my application. So if I enter 2 values like 100 and 50, it will display me the answer. So if I try dividing by 0, it will throw an application exception. So since now we are on our developer machine, it's possible to capture these exceptions through Visual Studio. But now think of a production environment where we don't have Visual Studio. So there should be a way where we can capture the information about errors and exceptions thrown by the server. So now let's see how it can be done. So now I will move into my client machine. Assume that this as a production server. So since I don't have Visual Studio, I have to deploy my website manually. So I have to go to ISS Manager here, IIS Manager. From here you can deploy a web application manually. Right click, add website. And here you have to give a name for your site. Site 1. And I will view the physical path of my ASP.NET application. Okay, and I will set the host as localhost. Okay. application is up and running in the production environment. So let's see how we can capture exception information from this site. So in order to do so, you will need to install interface collector for Visual Studio 2012 in your machine, and here I have installed that. Here. So you will need some operation on Windows PowerShell. You can open Windows PowerShell here. You have to open it with administrative privileges, run as administrator. Okay. This PowerShell is something similar to the terminal available in Linux. So you can perform some advanced tasks other than that which cannot be done in the command prompt. So what we have to do is, you have to first navigate into this interface folder here. Okay, now we are inside the interface folder. As the second task, what you have to do is, you have to import necessary DLL files to this PowerShell. So it can be done using this command. I will import module Microsoft Visual Studio interface.powershell.dll. This command will import the necessary DLLs into our PowerShell. So I will just copy paste this command. So after importing those DLLs, we can see whether the import is successful by using this get command. The get command will show you all the available commands, and by passing this italic phrase, it will show me the commands that has this phrase italic. So here it will display me a list of commands with this italic phrase, so I can assure that import has been successful. So now let's start collecting interface. For that I have the command start interface collection. Site 1 is the name I gave for my site, and here you have the file which contains the instruction about the interface collection, and as the third parameter I have the location where these interface reports should be saved. Okay. So you have to copy this. So it will ask confirmation from me, and if I press yes, it will start collecting interface. Now let's now start the role of the client. So I will start my web application, and I will enter some real values, visible values. So it will display this out. Then as the client, I will some invalid value like this. So it will throw an exception. Again, I can try this again by entering some strings. Then also it will throw an exception. So now let's see how this information about the exceptions can be collected. Now while the client is on this operation, the interface collector in the background will collect this information and log it. So now the developer comes, and what we have to do is, as developers, we have to copy that log file and take it to our developer machine and analyze and see what are the errors in that. So in order to do that, first of all, I have to stop the collection of interface because it won't allow me to copy the file while it is being written. You can do that by this command. Stop interface collection site 1. So it will ask confirmation. So now the collection of interface has been stopped. So now if I move into the location where I gave to save my interface log, I can here see the log file created. So what I have to do is, as the developer, I should copy this file into my machine. So I will connect to my network and copy it to my developer machine. will navigate back to my developer machine. So here, I have this file. Here is the log file. Now I can open this via Visual Studio, since I have Visual Studio in my developer environment. So it will show you a complete set of information about the actions of your web server. So if you move into this section called web request, you can see all the requests that were made and the status of those requests. So in the HTTP request, the status start from letter 2 means they were successful, and that means the creator accepted those successful results are represented by 2, starting from 2. And if there are any requests starting from 5, that means it has caused a server error. So here since once I entered a 0 and then I entered a string, so those failed requests are represented by these 2 instances. So if I click one of those instances and click request details, it will show me a full description about the exception. So if I want to identify the exact version of the exception, I can click the start of this exception and click this button, start debugging. So Visual Studio will show me the exact location of the line which through this exception. So it's very helpful as a developer. So actually this log file is something like a black box of an aircraft. So after the exception is caused, using this navigator, you can go back and see what are the steps occurred before the exception, and also you can go front and see how the execution went after the exception was closed. So by navigating through up and down, you can find any causes for this exception and prevent them. So this is really useful because we don't have to stop the work of the server while collecting this information. While the server is going on, we can collect these trace, and even the production environment has no Visual Studio. We can take it to our developer machine and see the error which is prevailing in the client. So I hope you understood about that. And any questions on that part? Did you understand?
Yep.
Okay. So I have 10 more minutes. So I will share. I have 10 more minutes. Even okay, I will show some small things. I will show some improvements with this new JavaScript editing Visual Studio 2012. Sorry, CSS editor. I will open a new web application, and one of the most cool tools in this new CSS editor is this new color palette. So if you want to select a certain color, you can click on the color value and press Ctrl space, and it will show you this new color palette. And if you need more colors, you can click here and select any color you want. Okay? So if you have an image and if you don't know the exact color value, what you can do is you can pick this color picker tool and go anywhere in your screen, and the color value will be automatically updated. Okay, so if you have an image and you want to take that exact color, what you can do is you can open an image. The sliding feature will won't work with this project. So what you can do is you can, because I try to keep my image in the slide, but the sliding feature is not working with projector. You can open your image, and in the same way you can take the color picker and click on that position of your image and take the color. If the color is after the color is selected, you can press enter, so that color will be applied. And another cool feature of this CSS editor is the ability to build CSS in a rapid manner. You can do it by clicking on one of these anchors and go to build style. From this option, rather than writing CSS from beginning, you can create CSS from a mechanical manner. Just applying values will create your CSS, and here you can see a preview, and this is the CSS that will be generated. So after doing any modifications you need, you can press OK. So your CSS sheet will be automatically updated. And another cool thing available with CSS editor is the ability to branch your CSS into regions, because usually CSS files are very large and it's very hard to read. So previously this feature was available with the C# editor now this is available with CSS editor also. What you can do is you can divide your CSS editor into regions. So you can do it by adding a comment and add hashtag region, my region 1, and at the end of this region you can say hash and Visual Studio will collapse it as a new region. So I can add another region here. Region 2, and here I can add another comment hash in region. So in this manner I can collapse my CSS code, so I can expand the part that which I did in the current moment and see that. So it will improve the visibility of your code and the usability of the code. So that's all about the CSS editor. So do you have any questions at last? So if you have any queries, you can contact me via my email, or you can talk to me via Facebook or follow me on Twitter. So that's all. Before the conclusion, I have a small request email. I will upload a feedback form into Cham's fan page. So please fill that form and give me your honest feedback, my weak points and what I have to improve, so I can make my further future presentations much beneficial to you. So that's it. And now I would like to go live over back. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Namila, for the wonderful presentation. Actually, so many new things I think you got to know about Visual Studio 2012, which you are not really much familiar with. So now we are moving to the second item on our agenda, that is the industry presentation. We have a very renowned professional here actually for our presentation today, Mr. Chaminda Chandrasekara, .NET Technical Lead from Navantis. He is going to present to you on ALM with Team Foundation Server. So I've been contacting him from more than 3 weeks. So to get this topic, what he was telling me when outside was, this is a very wide scope it has, which would take actually few hours, but he is going to take this for 1 hour with a very basic overview. So without much talking from me, I invite Mr. Chaminda Chandrasekara to take the floor with this valuable presentation.
We are going to talk about ALM with TFS and Visual Studio. I would like this to be kind of interactive, right? So you guys should speak up, right? And tell me what you know, right? So why actually we need ALM, and what is this ALM is all about? So is there any idea? Any clues? No clue. So you don't know anything about ALM. Okay, at least you know software development life cycle, right? You have heard of it, right? Okay. And you have learned waterfall architecture, agile, all those stuff. So this is actually what we are talking about here is addressing our practical problems, right? When you are doing your coursework projects or even something for your universities, you won't feel the actual customer influence, right? But when you are in the industry, right, it is not that easy. Right? Customers won't tolerate anything. Right? They need stuff to be delivered with quality and on time. Right? So that is the main target. Software should be delivered on time and on budget. Otherwise, there's no point. Okay? So ALM is actually application lifecycle management. That means the entire process of software development, from your requirement gathering to even understanding there is a requirement, and then starting developing some software and then moving into production release. Right? So this is not an easy process. So that is why now this ALM stuff started around a few years back actually. There was few processes like waterfall process and all those things, but actually TFS made a lot of difference. Right? From TFS 2008 to 2010 made a lot of differences in this process, and now everybody talk about Scrums, how to do agile software, all of those stuff. So we will see how actually Microsoft TFS plus Visual Studio helps us in our day-to-day life, make our day-to-day life easy. Right? So that's the main target of having these things. Right? So I already told you I will be skipping the slides sometimes because this is a very lengthy presentation. It is having about 72 slides. So I have to pass about 3-4 slides a minute. So just if you don't understand anything, just send me an email or anything. Any way you like to communicate, let me know. I will try to help you. Right? So this will be very quick. Right? So projects should be delivered on time and on budget, and the goal should be met. Goal should be met means whatever our customer expectation should be done. Otherwise, there's no point. Right? If we expect to have a nice air-conditioned bus and we are going to deliver a mini car or something, there's no point. Right? That's a simple thing, right? So, okay. These are the problems that we are having in our industry. Right? That is business and IT difference. Why? Right? We understand everything in terms of if, else, whatever, right? Do, while, all those things we understand. But in the business perspective, it is not that. They understand different things. They understand rupees and cents, right? They don't care about if and else. And they don't have if and else. They have concrete words, yes or no, and then rupees and cents, right? So that is the difference. They are talking in money terms always. The business always talks in money terms. But as software development people, we tend to talk in technical terms. Right? So that's the main difference. So we have to close that in. And the development process. How we do better software development, that's one thing. And for example, when you take Navantis, we have our offices in Calgary, Toronto, and Sri Lanka. So it's geographically spread. So it's very difficult. Sometimes we may create some problems that our Toronto office cannot continue. Otherwise, we fix it tonight. Otherwise, if they are not going to fix it tonight, they will have to wait till we come in the next morning. So we have to make sure everything is properly done. Right? Otherwise, there will be a lot of problems. Like I will tell you a few examples when we are moving through these slides. And synchronization of tools means okay, for example, you have several tools to test, several tools to develop software. You may have Java, PHP, whatever, right? So you need to have integration of all these things, right? So luckily, Navantis being only a Microsoft-oriented company, we only developed in Microsoft Visual Studio, plus we only mostly use SQL Server and whatever the Microsoft stuff, right? We are not moving into any Oracle or other stuff, so we are very lucky on that ground. But still we have a lot of issues in collaborating between these tools, right? Okay, then resource management is a major issue that project managers will face, and effectively using resources, that is another thing. And size of the project, like some projects go on till 2-3 years. Now, current project that I am working on, due to go live on July 1st, actually that project has been going on for 1.5 years or so, right? So there was a lot of requirement changes and a lot of things happening, right? Now, this is the most important thing in software development, right? Definition of done. So I will give you this set of slides so you can read through this later. I will simplify this and tell you, okay, thing is, okay, you may have a project manager or somebody, he may come to you as a developer and ask whether that functionality is done. Only you have tried it out, so you are kind of like, it's okay. So you say, yeah, okay, it's going on. So your project manager, you will think, okay, then I can show this to customer, and but you have not still developed that, right? You just tested in your machine and you are kind of sure you can do that. And that's why you said done. So you are going to stop him and say, no, I'm not yet done, I have to do it. And so that's the problem. Right? That's the difference. So that difference should be, and we should eliminate those things, right? From our project manager to the developer, we should understand one common thing. If it is done means done, right? It should be done. The done of the project manager and done of the developer and done of QA should, those should not be different. That should be consistent. Consistent done should be there. Okay. So to overcome all these things, actually, it is not only Microsoft. The whole application lifecycle management process is understood like this, right? It is actually the business needs. So we understand it should be made as a system. So we continue developing software and we move it into operation, and there will be business value added to the business, right? If this component is not there at the end, there's no point, right? The ultimate target is achieve this, right? Whatever we do in the other steps means we need to have this properly in place, right? When we have this in place, if there is, if there is no business value or changes to the business value, there will be change requests, or maybe even they will be considered as bugs or defects in your software, right? Okay, so these are the main aspects of software development process that we are looking at. What should be there in software development campaign, right? So traceability, process automation, and visibility. So what are these things? What is traceability? Okay. If a customer says, okay, this is not the functionality that I expected, right? You should be able to track it up to the requirement and find it out. No, you said it should be implemented this way. Now, if you have bunch of documents, like few files, how can you easily identify this particular screen defect is related to this one? It's not that easy, right? So when you're having a project lifetime about 1.5 years, we don't even remember where the document is, right? So that is one thing we have to address, right? We will look at how we can address that, say, and certain process automations, like, okay, are you always going to build your software and put it in your production server manually? Are you going to continue doing that? Okay, when you are doing always, when you're doing a QA release, okay, you develop, your life out, kind of work till 1 a.m. in the night, and then you start 8 a.m. in the morning next morning, and go up to again 12 midnight, and then after your development finishes, you are supposed to do the release to the QA, right? So you have to spend another few hours. This is not going to work, right? Because everybody gets tired. So So it's not easy. So we should identify a few things that should be automated. Right? So where we can automate is one area builds, right, or releases to the production or QA. The other area testing, right? Okay. When you are doing software, you have to test it. So if you do a change, if you have to start all over and from the scratch, if you have to test everything manually, is it easy? No, it's not going to be easy. So that should be automated. So there are a lot of things in software development that you can automate. So that is what we are looking at, process automation. So visibility. What is visibility? You should be able to pick who has done what, right? Otherwise, there will be no accountability. This is not like war crimes accountability, but I mean, that should not have accountability, but this should have accountability, right? So we should identify this. This is the cause of it, right? This is the cause of it. So that visibility should be always there. Why this has happened? So we will see how we have to do these things, right? Okay, ALM2 in future, actually ALM2 plus is the future. It is about work planning plus collaboration between these items. I said I am skipping few slides. I'm sorry, but I have to do that, right? So when an organization point of view, we can categorize into several categories like basic, standardized, advanced, and dynamic. Right? So I put Navantis here somewhere. Right? We are still not dynamic, right? Because we still have a lot of things to improve. Right? We are at a very advanced level. Right? There are certain organizations in Sri Lanka, at least they are not at basic yet. Right? So these things are very important. So I mean, okay. So we measure these things based on few categories, right? User experience, business intelligence, so many other things, right? So I'm not going to give much details, right? Okay, Microsoft has provided end-to-end solution for this, right? So they are starting off with assessment. So you can assess your organization. If you are having a software development company, initial step would be to assess your organization to identify where you are. Okay, where you are currently. So this assessment finally gives you the results where you are. Are you at basic, standard, or advanced, or dynamic? Right? So if you are already at dynamic, that can never happen, right? Because it is not possible. So if you are already at dynamic, you don't have to worry, but normally most of the organizations will not fit into even basic, right? I mean, basic will be there obviously because it is zero, right? There's no point having basic. Okay, so we will look at how this TFS world helps us. Okay, this is actually the base of it. You may have seen this image from internet so much times, but I don't know whether you understand this, right? So actually core of everything is team foundation servers, right? There are surrounding products. What is that? Okay. Lab management, then traceability, test case management. These some things are not tools, right? This end-to-end traceability is achieved using certain components, right? And test case management, yes, there is tools for that, right? Then build automation, you have tools. Customizable processes, yes, your process should be able, you should be able to customize your process. I mean, each company behaves differently, right? For example, Navantis behaves differently in Sri Lanka and Navantis behaves differently in Canada, right? I mean, we can't expect people in Sri Lanka to work like Canadian people. So we have a slight difference. So that difference should be addressed, right? So to address that thing, we need to customize our processes, how we do work. And version control, that is most important. Right? Then how to manage our requirement, project management, how to analyze things. So those things are very important. These are the tools that we use to do all this stuff. Right? Starting from Visual Studio, right? Project Server, You understand why project service there, right? This is for project management stuff. Right? In system center, okay, I'll tell you more about system center later. As you, so many stuff are there, right? Web access. What is this web access? No idea. So how many of you have used TFS? At least as a playing group. Just have seen that? No one. At least online TFS question. Just have a look. So I think I should talk more on the problem rather than the answer, right? See, if I give you the answer, you will wonder why there is an answer, right? Without a question. So we will talk about question, right? So eventually you will, you go and find out the answers, right? Okay, I'll tell you the problems that we have. So first problem is we don't have a proper process, right? We can't deliver our software on time. So why is that? The developers start working morning, very early morning and work late night. Still, they are unable to deliver software. So why is that? Where we have gone wrong? Who has done the posting? Is that the project manager's problem? Is that the developer's problem? Is that the business analyst problem? Who's the guy who is creating problem? Who do you think creates the problem? Okay, my problem is like we are not delivering software on time. Customer has given us the requirement. So, what is our problem? Where we are going wrong? You guys are educated guys, right? What is it? Okay, that's a good point. Collaboration issues. That's one good point. The other thing. Okay, we'll say we drag and at last we deliver software. Okay. So customer starts using that and what happens? Starts shouting at us, right? Sending so much of emails, saying this is not what really you have done, this is not what we expected, this is rubbish. So they are telling that, right? That's the feedback. So where's the problem? One thing, yes, understanding of the requirements, right? So actually, business world doesn't know what they want from IT. Simply that is the problem, right? They actually don't know what they really want, right? So they will tell you, we need a system to do this. We need to have a system which can make cakes. That's their system, right? But they are actually expecting something to make yogurt sauce. Right? We are going to develop a software which can make cake, where they are expecting yogurt as the end result. So, I mean, when they receive our software, will they be satisfied? No. The internal mind, they wanted something else. But they didn't know until they see our software. So the problem is, so you get the requirements, so you analyze, and maybe your architects and business analysts get together and design a so complicated and sophisticated software. But end of the day, that is not what customer wants. Right? Maybe your software is really technically good and without any bugs, but simply not doing the customer's business needs, or not adding any business value to customer. So if that happens, there's no point the effort that we have put in, right? Because there will be no value, right? They will actually, they will not pay us, they will sue us, right? They will go to courts saying, okay, we didn't get what we expected. Right? So that's what's going to happen. Okay. To avoid that, what should we do? We should actually understand what they really need. So what's the best way to understand what they really need? Actually, I'm not going to show you everything, and I will quickly tell you what TFS offers. But I think it's better you understand the problem and the why I'm saying the answer. Right? Otherwise, there's no point. Then, end of the day, we will be, you will be telling like somebody one day that guy has told us. We didn't have any problem, so he has said, he has provided us some answers, but we don't understand. So you should understand the question. So what is the best solution that we should give for these problems? How can we understand customers' mind?
By keeping a representative for customer team.
Okay, that's a good idea. So you are going to bring a person from customers.
Then he will be a member of our team, so we can contact him.
Yeah. Okay. So that person, do you believe that person represents the entire business organization? He knows everything. Maybe the chairman of the company, but still he doesn't know the actual business background. Right? See, it may work to some extent, but not to the extent that we expect. Right? We actually need real end users feedback. Right? Now, how to get this real end users feedback?
By dividing the whole development into increments, and by providing those increments for their feedback.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, right? Okay. This is from a book, right? So don't worry about this that much. Okay. Yes, exactly. We should give them something that is working very early, right? Not at the end of the project lifetime. Right? Okay. If you are doing a project about 6 months, we should give it at least within 2-3 weeks something for them to see and give their feedback. And that should be what we are giving should be a most important part of their business, right? That should add some value to their business, right? That should be a core functionality of their business, daily business running, right? So if they see some problem in that, they will immediately come back to us and tell, okay, this is not, we should have it in this particular way, right? So if they tell us that in 3 weeks time, rather than telling that at the end of 6 months, is it possible for us to change? Yes, obviously. Because we have about 5 months and a week, right? If we know this by end of 5.5 months, what will happen? We only have 2 weeks to achieve what they expect. So that's not enough. Right? So best thing is to deliver, iterate. Yes, yeah, 100% correct on that. Right? So how can we do that? To do that, actually Visual Studio Plus TFS helps a lot, right? So if I tell you what is the purpose of this web access, you won't understand why, right? Now this web access is really, really useful in identifying where we are. There are certain task boards, certain reports, so many things in this web access available. Why web access is important? Do you think that our project managers need to have Visual Studio on their machine? Do we have to give them i3 or i4 or i5, whatever? No. They can work with some kind of photo do or something, right? Because They are only mostly sending emails here and there and then using Word documents or MS Project or something. They are not going to use Visual Studio, that kind of stuff they are not going to do. So there's no point investing money for their machines, I mean, bigger money, right? The best thing is give them a simple machine, right? Or simple laptop. So they should be able to access the project information through web, right? And even from anywhere, right? Now, for example, if I try to access our office TFS at this point, I would be able. I can simply have access by tfs.navantis.com. But I should have credentials. Since I am having a user login, I can access my TFS and see anything. Right? So that's very, very important. That traceability. So you maybe your project manager is at a different country, right? Talking with your client. So he should be able to verify what is going on the project and give some feedback to the client as well, right? So this web access is very important in that aspect. So I will go through these things very quickly, right? So actually, in the TFS world, work items is the base of everything. So what is this work item? What do you reckon? What do you understand by a work item? What do you think work item is? Yes, that is correct. Partial. Right? Why partial? Actually, work item is everything that we do. It can be a task, it can be a requirement, it can be a bug, right? It can be anything. It can be even product backlog item. That means what we have to do, right? Or it can be a requirement, it can be a bug, it can be a issue, right? I mean, different process templates have different names, but these are things that we do day to day, right? It can be a test case, it can be a test result, right? Everything is a work item in TFS work, right? The nice thing about TFS is these work items can be interconnected, right? So you can link any work item to any other work item using different kind of relationships, like affected by, maybe parent, child, depend on, and so many link types are there. So it's very easy to track. For example, we say there is a requirement. So you link that requirement into a test case, right? So once this requirement changes, that test case should be affected. So you can link it by affected by link, right? So, I mean, you have to plan that, you have to decide that. But that flexibility is provided with TFS. So that is one aspect of our program, because we need the traceability. So when we have a bug, we should be able to track the bug from the bug to the original requirement, right? And if there is any requirement change or change request has come, that should be also linked. So we know how to identify why this bug is there. Maybe original requirement is achieved, but the change request has not been done. That is why the bug is there, right? So we can trace that. So that is how we achieve traceability. Right? So actually, the problem is since you guys are not actually developing software in the industry, you won't feel the importance of these things that much. Right? But when you jump into the industry, you will start feeling these things. Right? You will start, I mean, when your project manager come and ask you come on Saturday and Sunday and finish it, you will start thinking, why should I come on Saturday? I have to meet my girlfriend. That's a problem, right? You have to think. Then you will start, okay, complain. Initially you will work, right? You will work day and night and even 24/7, 365. Right? But that's for mostly 1 year. After that, some mobiles will be switched off on Friday night and switched back on Monday morning. And you cannot be reached by email or anything. That's a simple thing. Right? So, I mean, we have experienced that a lot. Our team members cannot be found. Avoid that, to avoid those things, actually we should have a proper plan, right? So TFS will help us doing those things, right? And this is something called work item traceability. That means whatever we develop, right, we can actually leave in this Team Explorer view, right? So, this is kind of good to you, right? So I am telling you about a Team Explorer, right? So this Team Explorer is something that you are going to find in Visual Studio 2012 and even 2010. 2012 is much enhanced, but the user interface is ugly, right? I think Microsoft has released a blue theme, right? Has anyone used that? With update too. Is that that theme is good, right? I don't know. I'm not right. Okay, whatever. I like 2010 interface better, right? This one is kind of misleading. Okay. So you will get so many things here, right? So do you guys understand what check-in, check-out, and all those stuff? Why do we need to check in and check out? No idea. Okay. Source controlling. What is source control? So I think rather than going through these slides, I should ask this question. How many minutes I have?
40 more minutes.
14, 35. 35 more minutes, yes. Okay. So I have half an hour, so I'll try to do best here, right? It's no point I'm going through these slides because you don't understand anything, right? So I will try to give you an idea on what is actually happening in the industry rather than going through these slides, right? What is version control? What's your idea on version control? Okay, take an example of a Word document or something. You type something in your Word document and you save it. Your friends open, one of your friends open it and he says something in. So that's the next version, right? Then another guy opens that. That's another version of it, right? So that's the simple terms of version. So why we are talking about software development, version control? What is the importance of it? So there's no importance for Microsoft is supposed to develop this much of software, right? To version control. We don't need that. What do we need? Any ideas? No? Basically, it's like this. Okay. We'll take a very simple example. You have two developers team. Nobody else is there. Me and my buddy. Right? So both of us are developers. Right? So we discuss and develop. So I develop part of the functionality, the other guy develop another part of the functionality. So we make sure nothing is overlap. So there's no problem. So can we do this with about 5 team members? Can we do that? No, right? Something will overlap, right? So he may need, one guy may need to change something that I need, right? So I cannot do it as he requests. So I have to ask him, do it yourself. So he don't understand how I have done it. So he has messed it. So what will happen? When I try to run my functionality, his functionality runs fine. But my functionality will start to fail. Why? He has ruined my original code while implementing his part. Right? So that can happen. So is there a way for me to go back? No. Right? Since he has completely overwritten everything, I don't have my older way of development, right? So that is why we need to have some kind of version. And we need to keep how it was. When we change it, we need to keep how it was, right? Each file we need to know what is the original way it looked like, right? Then we need to know who has changed what and what is the change. Right? Who has changed and what is the change is very, very important. Right? Then we exactly know this person has done this change and why he has changed. So that is where the comment comes in. Right? I'm not talking about the comment in your code. Right? But I'm talking about what is the comment that you are putting when you are adding something to your version control system. That is very, very important. Why? That says why you have changed that particular files. Right? So this kind of set of changes, right? We call it a change set. Right? Whatever the changes that we do, we take it as set and say that's a change set. That means older version we have changed it to some kind of new things and we take it as a set and check it in together to the version control again. That means we submit it to the version control again. That is a change set. So now you understand what is change set here, right? So when we are checking in, we should add a check-in comment. See, in TFS we can make it mandatory to add a comment, right? That way we can enforce certain things, right? And you can even make it optional as well, right? So I'm not going to talk about this shell because it's another topic. I find it very difficult to even explain to kind of 2-3 years experienced developers, right? They started wondering what is that, right? So I will simply tell you, it's not actually checking in, right? That means you are not actually updating your version control repository. What you are doing is temporary checking in. You think it as a temporary checking in, and you can undo at any time. Shelving is like that, right? So you temporarily save it in the server. Why you are doing that? Your machine may load in any minute, right? You can't trust these things, right? This is working right now, but I don't know. Right? In the next minute, this may burn out. I don't know, right? So if that happens, you have to have some place to keep your valuable effort, right? So that is why you are shelving at least. If you have not completed your work to check in, you need to at least shelve that. That means temporary saving. Think it as temporary saving, right? That's not the exact truth, right? If I try to explain the exact truth, that will be very difficult, right? So that facility is there. This I already told you, right? Linking work items, how it works. So whatever I already told you, I will skip. Right? So you can query your work items, different work items. So if you want to find a particular, if you just want to know what are the tasks assigned to me, just write a small query and put your name here. O at me means the logged in user. Right? You just run that query, you will get whatever the items assigned to you. Right? So that is very easy because now when a bug is raised by QA, he can assign it directly to the developer or the development lead or somebody. Then development lead may distribute it to the team. So we'll say for unfortunate reason that your team lead gets delayed on his way to his office. Maybe his car broke down or something, right? So you are having a party because you don't have any work until he comes and tells you, today you have to do these parts. You are free, right? But with TFS, he can, from home, he can assign the bugs to you and come, right? So if he gets late, still you can start, right? So that's how we save time. Normally, in actual terms, the software development office, the 8 hours that you are working, actually productive will be around 6 hours. Other 2 hours, what happens? Okay, not for lunch or anything, right? These are separate time slots, right? For your lunch, you are allocated half an hour or 1 hour depending on the company. Right? So, where goes the other 2 hours? Alright. Facebook, gossip, chit chat. What else? Washroom tours. Right? So, all these things, right? That's the truth. Right? Nobody works 8 hours, full 8 hours. I don't believe that. So if you work 12 hours, maybe you have to work about 8.5 or 7. I don't know. 7 to 8. That's the truth. So if you are at office about 12 hours, you are actually worked about 8.5 or so. Right? I mean, excluding the lunch hour. Right? That's the truth. It's not that easy, right? So it's very important to start very early in the morning. Right? So that can be achieved. So I will tell you it's very simple than these things, right? So this is how you customize your process. I don't think that you will understand why you need to customize your process yet. Why? You have not seen a process yet. Right? You have heard of these things, right? How software development life cycle happens. You start from requirement gathering, right? And then what do? You have a master architect, right? And then you start building. Sometimes, I don't know, when I was doing NIBM long time back, I was told like it's like constructing a building by my lecturer. Right? So if you don't have foundation correct, you can't build the building nicely. Right? So software development is that, can we compare it to construction of some building or something? Can we compare it? Software development is not something like road construction or building construction. Right? We need to change the foundation always. Right? So that is why that normal project software development life cycle doesn't apply to the software. And normal project development life cycle doesn't apply to the software. That is why software development industry is moving into agile. Right? That means we change all this. We even change our code. Even the foundation we change. Otherwise, we won't be able to achieve what our customer wants. Right? It's not like building construction. So there will be no fixed plan. Right? So if we try to do fixed plans, that will not work. Okay. This is how you customize your processes. So I will skip this part because you won't understand anything. Okay. So you may have heard of agile, right? And you pay some tickets, right? What you are doing and what is pending, what is progressing, and what is finished, right? So you have some tickets pasted to your wall or something. So this one is something similar. So you have a dashboard where you can drag and drop these things. Now, earlier version, this was not there, right? We had to either use some third-party thing or do without something like this. But now we have all this, right? Then the other thing, in software development,
No, it's okay.
tell me the time, right?
Right, you have
10 minutes, tell me.
Yeah, 15 minutes exactly.
Okay. I know. And that's why I told you that this is about half this topic, right? I will anyway go in 15 minutes. Right? So why is PowerPoint storyboarding is important? Okay. So it's like this. Now, if you read a book, for example, for your exam or something, do you really understand from beginning to the end? Or before the exam, you just go to the exam, right? What do? Actually, what you are writing, I believe you write your answers with the activities that you have done, right? Within your classrooms and within your learning cycle, not with what you just go through in the book, so at the last minute of the exam, right? Before the exam. That's not going to be useful. When you are writing your answers, actually what is important is whatever you have done in your normal, practical situation, right? Whatever you learned in your classroom and whatever you heard will be used when you are writing your answers. That is the practical truth, right? it's same for the software development, right? If we go through an SRS and read through it several times, do we understand anything? No, simply not. For our instance, actually Canadian people normally write the SRSs, and mostly these BAs are Russians, so their English is kind of different, so we don't understand anything. Simple. Actually, when they talk even, we don't understand anything. We don't understand anything. We have live meetings, we don't understand anything normally when they talk. I have an architect, he's I think Korean or something. He says something, then I ask, what is that? He repeats again. Oh, okay, sorry about my accent. Then he starts again. So that's what happened. And so it's very difficult because their accent is different, but their meaning is different. We Sri Lankans understand differently. Right? So it's very difficult. The best thing is to have kind of pictorial debug. Right? See, if they can graphically show us what should happen, do we understand better or not? Yes, we do understand better, right? So that is why this PowerPoint storyboarding is very, very important. Now you can link these things with your work items, and even TFS provides facilities to have different shapes in your storyboarding components and all those stuff. So it is very useful, right? So that is why this set of tools are very, very nice, right? Then I told you something about getting the feedback from the clients, right? So there are certain tools that you can use to get feedback from your clients directly, right? So that is to generate a feedback request, and these things are automated. So it will send an email to your customer. You have to create this account, but then it will send an email even to your customer or any other stakeholder, maybe your BA, right? So he can provide a feedback, and that feedback can be image or even a video, even voice, whatever. You can attach anything, right? So that is very, very important. Why? Then when we see these things, we understand better rather than reading a document, right? So we understand. He may show us certain images and tell, okay, this is what should happen, and he may record a simple video and put it in, right? So we understand better. So then we develop exactly what they want, right? Okay. Now you have learned this stuff, right? Sort of UML, this thing, that thing, right? Do you believe these things happen in real software development? UML diagram drawing. Do you believe? No. In my life of 12 to 13 years of experience in software development, I have never referred to a UML case diagram. I have learned when I was learning, but after that, in the industry that is not there. Right? So that is not that even sequence diagrams. You may be able to develop develop sequence diagrams after 6 months, but you don't have a software. So you should give your customer the sequence diagram. And tell him, okay, in another 6 months, we may be able to give you something working. Right? That is the actual truth, right? These are there, but normally, if you start doing this stuff, right, you will not meet the current demand, right? So we have to find some easy ways, right? So that is why Microsoft given these capabilities to just reverse engineer these things, right? So when we develop our software, you can actually create these diagrams from the tools, right? This is a dependency graph, right? It shows actually how the system is created, what are the class hierarchies and everything. This can be generated, right? And you can define a simple architecture diagram, and you can validate your software against that. So that is very important. You are adhering to your architecture. You make sure all your developers are adhering to your architecture that is defined. So that kind of simple tools are provided rather than extensive documents. So we don't nowadays develop so much of documents, right? those documents are not really valid, right? We don't understand the correct requirement at the very beginning. So we always have to erase and change and again write. There's no point writing on Word documents rather than, I mean, it's better to develop software, right? Okay. So this part I will skip. This is actually the layer diagram that I told you. You can actually validate this with your software, right? The facility is there. It's very nice to have demos on these things, but it's very difficult to show in this limited time, right? That's why I don't have any demos, right? Okay. Now this is about version controlling. I will just skip. Okay, workspace. If I told you, you would not understand. History and annotate. Okay, this part I will tell you, right? So when you see kind of code, so if you are in doubt why this is written this way, right? Now Visual Studio has the facility, I think this guy has told you, right? Right click and say annotate, right? When you say that, it will show who has changed and on which date. So if you are not sure why this is this, so you can go and ask this person, right? He's one of the guys in your office, right? So you can contact him and ask him, you have changed this line of code like this way. I don't understand why. Can you explain me a bit? Right? That's very important, right? So you have that facility. And you can see the version control history. See, some items are not with comments. So we don't know why he has done that particular part of change. Right? So it's better to have comments. So I'm trying to tell you this. And comparing is also provided. Actually, this was there from even Visual Source Safe, right? But this is enhanced a lot from graphical side. Right? I don't see much of a difference right there in graphical, right? And with the DFS world, the branching and merging is the most important. Why? When we are actually releasing software to our clients may come up with bugs, but we are continuing to develop the next phase of it. Right? So we have to keep them in two separate places, and we should be able to merge at the end. We can't do the same work over and over again. Right? We cannot fix the bugs in this version as well. Right? We should be able to merge and fix it. So that is why this branching and merging strategy is very important. So unit testing, I think you have heard of it, right? So I'm not going to do anything about that. You can use Text Explorer, code coverage. Code quality, okay. First you have to code to do code quality, right? So when you come to industry and you start coding, then you will see how you code, right? Then we will talk about the code quality. Okay, these are really important facts, but what I will do is I will actually give you this slide. Right? So if you have any questions, just forward it to me. I will try to answer as much as possible. And that's the best. Okay. I will show you most important things on it. And this code cloning is another really nice facility because normally our developers find the easy way out. Okay. If he finds a similar functionality page, what he does is just copy and paste and do the changes there. Then, okay, another similar one, copy and paste and do the changes there. But never thinks of like taking few codes out and make it common. Because it's very easy to copy and paste that. Then the other function is not broken 100% and this one is working. But by the end of your development work, your code will not be maintainable. Why? There will be a lot of code, unnecessary code. So this cloning detection can identify similar pattern codes and indicate you within the entire solution. So you can filter them and find out common methods and refactor your code. Right? This is very, very important. So you will actually come across these things when you come into the real industry. I don't know how many of you come into the software development industry, but whoever comes, don't be project managers at first, just be developers and be project managers later. Right? You start off as a project manager, you will engineer. I will not take that part because then you will recording. One of my project managers is that I will be. So, you can actually analyze your performance, right, and profile. There are several tools. I don't have time to explain these things, but this one thing I will explain you. This is one tool where you can put it into your production server without installing Visual Studio anything, right? You just copy a simple file and run it. It will trace the file details, and if there is any bugs or any other defects or even the debugging values, it will record in the trace file. So you can then later bring it back to your development machine, and you have to have Microsoft Visual Studio 2012 Ultimate to debug the trace file and see what has actually happened. So that is really, really useful. Only problem I see is that it is only coming as ultimate feature, the debugging. That you have to write something in Microsoft feedback, right? Go to connect.microsoft, then write some feedback saying this kind of cool feature, why that is not there in the premium app, right? So, and even bugs can be recorded, and normally your QA will tell, okay, we don't understand what you have developed, but we have got this bug, right? So you will start to say, my machine it is perfectly working, so I don't have any problem. I don't know how you test it, right? So that file will empty. Right? You can see how he has tested, and you can do the same and see, right? And you can see even the environment and all the details. Right? Okay. Okay, there are a lot of things, but I will skip. Okay, this is very important, how you continuously deliver, right? So this is what we are working at most of the time, right? We try to deliver continuously, right? This is the last point that I am talking about, right? On the 2 minutes. Right? This build, this is really, really important because we need to, we are actually, in Navantis, we have automated in almost all the projects, mostly, right? It has given us a lot of benefits, right? What we do is we just develop and check in and go home. We don't care about how it is deployed to the queue, right? It's very easy. And when we check our sourcing, we are 100% sure our server version is always at healthy state. That is correctly building. Right? We have a checking restricted build, that continuous integration build. So we build each and every checking. So we can easily identify who has broken the build, and we can rectify that. That is very important because when we checking something, if our next part of our team in Toronto starts tomorrow morning, that will be our night, right? So if they see a build failure, if they cannot build, they can identify the exact place they will be. They can easily correct that. Otherwise, they have to wait till we wake up, right? And ask from us, what is this? Okay, so Team Foundation server is in the cloud as well, so you can use that free version and experiment with yourself. And this goes into the extent of even generating release notes, right? So, sorry, we don't have time. So, is there any question? Anyway, thank you. So, these are the references that I have used. These are really, really important books. If you have time, just go through them. But most part you will not understand until you come into the real software development. See, you guys will be able to contact me through any of these, right? So just if you have any question relating to ALM, EFS stuff, just forward me. I will try to help as much as possible. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandrasekara. Actually, it was a really comprehensive session, I would say, but like it was not 100% technical, but the real basics I think you really got to know with that, where you would have certain applications in the academic side as well. You know, so if you compare one of your lectures to this, I think this was super, right? So I mean, no, like same concepts. I think like I don't need to compare, but I think you should have got something really great. How the practical applications are there in the industry. So I thank him again.